I'm Chastity Garner. I'm here with Dr. Nina, who is a holistic and functional medicine doctor, and they we're talking about something I actually have experience with, and it's IVF treatment and actually failing. So, Dr. Nina,
Mhm.
I would like to ask you, what are some of the things that you need to know before you even go into IVF?
So I think one of the most important things is that when you're trying to get pregnant, we want to make sure that the body in itself is in a proper state so that you can prepare your womb for pregnancy. So I think that's not looked at or not really focused on a lot when a woman is trying to conceive.
So the questioning is, and we've had some private discussion about these things. And one thing that you said, sometimes you can look at someone's labs and tell that they cannot get pregnant. What are some of those things that you would actually look at? So regardless of whether they're doing IVF or not,
Right.
you would know that it doesn't matter if they do that.
Yeah.
What are some of the markers that you would see?
So a lot of the markers that I'm looking at hormones. I'm looking at the estrogen levels, your progesterone levels. I'm looking at the inflammatory markers, which is really huge. A lot of times we can see things that's happening in the gut. So a lot of these factors play a huge part as far as how is the quality of your egg going to be, or if I'm looking at a male's lab, how is the quality of his sperms going to be. So if your body is very acidic or you have all of these health conditions, then you will have a harder chance of conceiving compared to someone whose body is more in I would say a balanced state.
So, what are some of the essential steps that you would have a person do to prepare before they even went into IVF treatment?
Okay, so if we're talking about a female client, then my big thing is I like to say we're going to prepare your womb. Like I've learned this. I'm from Florida, so a lot of my friends are like from the islands. So we want to prepare the womb for pregnancy. So how do you do that? So the first thing is we want to take a look at some of the foods that you're eating. We want to make sure that you're eating like more alkaline foods versus more acidic foods. Like for a woman, you should be consuming a lot of fruits. Fruits is really good when you're trying to conceive because fruits not only has the proper minerals that the body needs, but fruits can also help, like I said, to how can I say this? It's just really going back to getting the lymphatic system moving in a healthier state, flowing out toxins, just getting everything nice and healthy so that you can get a quality egg.
Can we talk a little bit about like stress levels with IVF and how they can actually affect someone being able to conceive?
Yeah. Stress plays a huge factor because if you're spending a lot of money on IVF treatments because you really want this to work. So imagine you're spending money and you may not have another what like $25,000 or $50,000 for another round. So the stress in itself can cause you can cause your inflammatory markers to go up. Stress in itself can cause adrenal fatigue. Stress in itself can affect the whole process of you trying to have a quality egg for egg retrieval. So stress plays a huge factor in this process.
So, how would you measure stress levels in a person or a woman
Mhm.
on a labs? What does that look like?
So if I'm just solely focusing on the stress hormone, then I want to do a urine test. I want to do a urine hormonal test so I can check the cortisol levels at different times throughout the day to see how is your stress levels when you wake up compared to in the afternoon and at nighttime. And then also I want to take a look and see, okay, is your stress also having an effect on your adrenal glands? And then also, like, how is your neurotransmitters, your serotonin, your dopamine levels, all of those play a huge factor. Because if you're stressed or that stress hormone is not where it needs to be at, and let's say you do conceive, I feel like this is where a lot of issues come into play at when we have babies and then we have like postpartum depression. There's things that I feel like women are neglected when it comes to certain hormones and it's not really being monitored correctly.
And can those, even if you are able to conceive, can those stress levels kind of transfer over to the baby themselves?
Of course,
Oh.
of course. I've even seen cases where, But let's say the mom had a lot of autoimmune conditions or like thyroid conditions, and the baby, the baby comes, and the baby has like a lot of issues. So of course, these can definitely be transferred over to the baby.
So are there any other are there any other reasons that we haven't discussed that like IVF treatments might fail?
I don't want to say that. I don't. I think sometimes IVF treatments may fail because maybe you were not a candidate for the IVF treatment. And sometimes you go to these clinics, and some of these clinics, not all clinics, they want to make money, and then they will sell you on the treatment knowing, that you are not a good candidate. There's lab tests that you can do in advance to see, okay, how many eggs you're producing, and just by I can get a food log from you, and you tell me like how you're eating. I can make an assumption as to, okay, how the quality of your egg is going to be. We talk about your lifestyle, talk about your mate lifestyle. All those plays a huge factor. So yeah, there could be reasons, a lot of reasons why it fails or you're not a candidate for it.
Would you look at both partners when you're doing some sort of treatment for fertility or making the person most optimal as far as like male candidates as well?
Oh, definitely. So the male, we definitely want to make sure that the quality of his sperm is where it needs to be at. A lot of times I've had friends, female friends that thought, that they had issues, and come to find out that it was the male. But men can be very arrogant. And so it's kind of hard for a male to go and check to see if his sperm count or the quality of his sperm is good. But there's natural herbs that he can take. There's eating right. If you're smoking marijuana, that's something that can definitely affect the quality of your sperm. So it all boils down to what we're putting inside of our body as far as nutrition, our thought process. We want to make sure that we are in a positive mind state, because thinking about, you are in the process of bringing life into this world. So everything needs to be in sync. It needs to be in harmony. And that goes for both parties. I feel like the responsibility is always on the female, but it should be both parties that's trying to do the same thing.
And I think I would like to touch on a little bit more just from like personal
Mhm.
experience of going into a clinic and basically not really being a candidate. And, you've seen my own labs and things like that and saying, oh, no, there's no way you would be able
Right.
to get pregnant because these levels aren't there.
Yeah.
And then kind of talking that through so people kind of understand to know what to look for, so that when they go in there that they're not just spending their money for no reason.
Right. So I think if you are, let's say you're trying to conceive and you're having a hard time, before you take that step and you go into these IVF clinics, seek help from I would say, I'm going to just put it out there, a functional medicine doctor. And the reason why I say functional medicine is because most functional medicine doctors like myself, we are not restricted to the type of labs that we can run, because why? Insurance does not cover functional medicine. So we can run any type of test, so we can actually see, okay, where is the body? Are you at the state right now to where you're good to go and spend all this money on these IVF treatments? Let's get the body right first. And then the second step should be to then go to the clinic. Or there's sometimes where you can get your body right, and your body is balanced, your hormone is where it needs to be at, and then all of a sudden you're pregnant.
When you think about, like, older women trying to get pregnant over the age of 35, even over the age of 40, is
Right.
there any specific advice you might have for them?
I would just say, okay, I'm gonna say this. There are women in other countries
Mhm,
that's in their 60s that's still getting pregnant,
mhm.
right? And the reason for that is because the type of foods that they're eating, the type of fruits that they have access to. So their womb and their body and their hormones is more optimal than, I would say, some of the women here in the States. So as we get older, like, we really, really, really need to focus on eating organic food. Mind, body, spirit is important. Um, Anything that you can do to pull toxins from out of your system, and just kind of like bring your body back to a really good healthy state. As women, we are exposed to so many endocrine disrupting chemicals because while we're big on our beauty, so whether it's the deodorant from the aluminum from the deodorant, the chemicals that's in the perfume, or the beauty products that we're putting on our hair, all of those things can play a huge factor whether or not you're able to conceive.
And just going to ask you, have you had any clients that you've helped be able to conceive? Any stories that you can give us?
I've had hair loss clients who would come in just for hair loss treatments, and we would do lab work on them. And here we focus a lot on correcting imbalances. And so that if you correct the body, then the hair will get the benefits. So in doing so, yes, we have had clients who have become pregnant and conceive with no issues.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, today that concludes our video with Dr. Nina on IVF treatment and why it might not work. We have Dr. Nina here.
Yes. I just want to say one thing too. I want to say something as far as just us as human beings, right? So let's say I'm going to use myself for an example. So I have endometriosis, and I would say about 15 years ago, I had to have surgery. And at that time, the doctor told me, well, if you want to have another child, you will have to come back because your fallopian tubes were blocked.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, I just had this surgery. There's no way I'm going back. I guess I won't become pregnant, right? So what I did, and this is really deep down within my soul, I knew that I wanted this baby. And so my husband said, I wish this baby here. And I did.
Mhm.
Because with the will of my soul and me believing and doing everything that I needed to do, she's a miracle baby. She came here. So speaking positive things to yourself, I'm big on affirmations. I'm big on journaling things in future tense as if it's already here. So if you're wanting to conceive and you want that baby, journal and write in your books as if you're already holding your baby, or imagine yourself in a delivery room, like delivering your baby. Like let's start doing those type of things versus looking for like speaking on the negatives. Let's only speak on the positive.
So the internal work, as far as like your mental state, emotional state, and what you believe is just as important as doing all the medical things.
It's the most important thing.
Oh, wow.
It's the most important thing. The mind and the energy that you put out is so important because the cells in your body is living and it hears exactly what you're saying. So if you're beating yourself up, then you're beating your cells up. But if you're talking positive to your cells, it's like you're lifting your cells up, your tissues, you're giving your body energy, and you see your body needs electricity, it needs that electrical charge.
And then what advice would you give the partners of those women trying to?
The same thing, the same thing. If your partner if you and your partner are not in sync, then that's another that's another topic, I'm telling. So no, because it's gonna be hard.
Mhm.
Imagine if you're doing all of this to you're speaking these things into existence, you're eating right, you're doing everything that you need to do, and then you have a partner that's doing the total opposite. Now, it's a possibility that you can conceive, but then you have a high probability that there may be some health imbalances in the future that your child may have.
Mhm. I've also come across information that a lot of times with not conceiving and even miscarriages, a lot of times it's more on the men's side than it is on the women's side.
Mhm.
Can you speak to that? And do you?
Like I said, I have a friend, and that's the situation that they're going through. And we've come to the conclusion that it is him. But I mean, if he cares, then that man will go and do what he needs to do as far as getting the proper testing, taking herbs to help with the quality of the sperm. So there's things that men can do. I think most of the time they just always it's always put back on the female.
Specifically, are there any supplements that you would recommend to women trying to conceive and even men too as well?
So I like to do labs when as far as supplementation because I want to give you exactly like what your body need and what your body can handle at this moment, right? I may give you something and some things may not be flowing correctly and then it may not work.
Mhm.
But one supplement just off of the top of my head for females that I've seen that have worked is Vitex.
Mhm.
Vitex has chasteberry in there, so it has a lot of ingredients that can help to balance out certain hormones that can help you to conceive or help, I guess, the uterine lining become thick.
Mhm.
For men, there are some things that you can take, supplements depending on what it is. So let's say if testosterone levels is low, then there's either shots that you can take, there's supplementation that can increase, that can actually help to increase the sperm count. But a lot of that has to do with like the foods too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then of course, if you're trying to conceive, if you're drinking, you want to cut down on the alcohol too. So yeah.
Okay. So that's our conversation today on IVF treatments and why they fail. I'm here with Dr. Nina, functional holistic medicine doctor.
So if you like this information, please like and subscribe. And until next time, guys, take care.